the meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube and to the Cloudflare stream after the meeting ends. Our join rate is still fairly high. We're waiting for a few moments for people to finish joining. All right, our join rate is starting to slow. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll repeat, share video if you're willing and able. But do remember that the meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube and to Cloudflare Stream when the meeting ends. Our agenda is at the notes page that is linked off of the data tracker. We're using the notes page URL format that is the data tracker default for these meetings going forward. The agenda can be seen looking at the outline of those notes. If anybody has any agenda bashes, let me know. All right, we'll start in with just a reminder of the larger things that are in motion for us at the tools team at the moment. We are continuing to focus primarily on RPC modernization and expect to be in that state until probably February. That's the current estimates on when things are going to land, and we start focusing on things that are not RPC modernization as the majority of our efforts. We are continuing to make progress on non-RPC modernization topics, but the focus is very strongly on the new RFC editor website, the RPC workflow management and editing tooling for the new processes at the RPC, anticipating the shift to, driven by the shift to RFC 10K. Our first hot topic for discussion at this meeting is that we have an unusual meeting coming up. We're going to meet in person, having essentially one of these calls as a side meeting at IETF 124. It is scheduled currently on Thursday morning. I'll upload an agenda that will look very much like one of the agendas for these tools calls, unless people have suggestions for things that they would like for us to talk about differently. Once that's up, as usual, we can bash that agenda just by editing the notes file. wanted to talk quite a bit at this meeting about making the next step in setting community expectations for the use of JavaScript in our applications. There's been a bit of a frog boil over time. We started out 2 decades ago with a strong requirement to make sure that every application we had could be used without JavaScript running in the browser. That position was abandoned long ago, at least a decade, but it's been incremental as different applications and different parts of applications needed to leverage JavaScript to give people the experience that they really needed to have. We're to the point now where we are engineering applications from the beginning to rely on JavaScript running in the browser. The RFC editor website, for example, anything beyond the most basic viewing of the static pages is going to involve JavaScript as part of the application. We're expecting that we're going to be doing the same thing with the data tracker as we move what we're learning to do with the Vue Nuxt frameworks to rebuild the data tracker views into something that are far more performant and scalable. So this is a change. It's been a long, slow series of changes, but we want to make sure that the larger part of the community that doesn't follow the minutiae of this isn't surprised when they suddenly find themselves running into something that didn't work, that they expected to work, and it's not working because they've got no script running in their browser. And I wanted to get feedback from this group on how we can best set that expectation, make sure that we don't have any strong objection from the people that are attending this call. And I want to make sure we include in the conversation that we are needing to capture telemetry from all parts of the application, including the parts that are running in the browser when the application breaks. So there is more information that we will be receiving from that telemetry about what was happening in the browser when the application broke than we have been receiving before.
Robert,
yeah,
I understand for the RSA editor, right? So we need a refresh for the website, it's a given. But for data tracker, do we really need to change everything and move to a JavaScript framework? That's the part I'm missing.
Yes, that is our long-term plan. We've done this with the agenda page already.
Yes.
Right, the primary agenda page. And the other particularly heavy view pages are going to move into these frameworks so that we can serve them mostly from the edge.
Okay. I mean, Eric, the reason...
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
The reason ultimately is that in order to provide the user interface that people want and expect and they're getting used to, you have to use JavaScript to do it. You know, the features that people want in the user interface can't be delivered any other way. Otherwise, we're, you know, just limiting the set of features we can provide. This is, people are used now to much more sophisticated user interfaces and the use of JavaScript to do that.
Okay, it still escaped me, right? So why we need to get the most fancy JavaScript user interface, but yeah, okay. If I'm the only one,
it's not fancy. No, it's not fancy. I don't think that's the way we should say it. This is what people expect as a baseline now. Is a good user interface that has multiple features, and those things really can't be delivered any way other than with JavaScript anymore. That's you know, the simple fact. I think it's not. I think the world has moved on, and that's the baseline now.
Eric, real quick, I've got a question. Are you asking from the perspective of people in general that would be using the website, or as you as a developer needing to learn yet another?
Actually, both, right, Robert? You know me by now, but it's also the amount of effort it will take, right? So basically the effort of money and potential disruption and training of the people, because our community doesn't like changing, right? So just in case, most of them. And on the
We
developer
have a
side, I'm
huge
always
amount
keeping
of
the
technical
users
debt lying around in the data tracker in particular, with applications like the current liaison application, that we really need to weed. We were looking recently at the session request tool, and in order to change some of the skins, an upcoming release is just moving the existing code around, but we're finding things down inside that code that are very, they're not implemented the way that they should be implemented, even if you weren't using a JavaScript front end. I mean, there are pieces of that code that are mutating data with get, for example. And when we do go through and refactor these things, refactoring them into using these frameworks that will allow us to serve each part of the application that we touch, in a way that isn't as subject to the need to put in Cloudflare Managed Challenge because it's compute intensive in the back end for every query, is a thing that we need to take care of.
And I agree, for the session request at the meeting, that's not the nicest part of data tracker for sure.
Yep.
And it needs a refresh on this one, yeah. I'm most concerning about document processing and basically what I do in my ISG job, right?
Yep. Yeah, when we replace the balloting page with something that's looks more like a single page architecture style entry, I think you're going to be very happy. You'll be able to do things at that point, like edit over time before you commit, and have the browser remember what you've typed in before. You know, people in ISGs in the past have been very frustrated that they couldn't keep information, right? That will become it will come for us for almost free using the frameworks.
Okay.
All right. So my ask here of the crowd is that
Robert, you still have Paul in the queue.
I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead. We're not really using the queue here. Please just jump in.
Oh, sorry. Okay. And Warren had been ahead of me, so I was trying to be polite to Warren, which I don't always do. You asked earlier, what can you do? And I think a banner across the top of the data tracker page that is short and says, this is coming, want to know more, go here. And then, you know, with a link to a page, greater is better. But I have a question for you. I just, having been in the IETF for so long, know that there will be some people who will object. They will say, you're doing it wrong. You don't need to do it this way. You know, you're hurting me and such like that. Do you have a plan for how to move beyond them? Or how do you count enough of them before you move on? I can't imagine a future where you don't have to face this.
No, there's always going to be someone that is wanting to have something different than what we're going to provide.
Correct.
So we just have to have the conversation. I mean, we can't avoid it. And the feedback for them is that, you know, the information, the static information, the ability to do the read things is going to be present. I mean, the way we plan to build these applications, all of the content's going to be available to
Wait,
engines,
Robert,
right?
I'm not saying what will your justification be. I'm asking, do you have a plan for dealing with it when someone objects? If you have a plan, great. I don't need to hear it. I'm just saying that given that it's likely, do you already have a page? Are you going to have a page? Is it, is there going to be an escalation?
I'm expecting it to be an email conversation.
Okay, great.
So I guess I'll jump in. I had put my hand up and then taken it down because you might have already answered my question for Eric. I just want to be clear. The main purpose for doing this is to deal with technical debt and make future updates easier, right? Not to add shiny web stuff. Okay, because I think there's sort of a bunch of feature requests which are probably more urgent than the shininess / modernness. So if this helps with that, great.
And realizing a lot of those feature requests are going to be easier in these frameworks than trying to shove it into the spaghetti that we've got.
And potentially some of those feature requests will only really be practically deliverable inside a JavaScript framework. That's the point, for trying to do some of these things that people expect now otherwise are just too clumsy. What I've taken away from Paul, from you've said, is that we need some form of FAQ for people about this.
I think that will possibly reduce the number of emails that come in saying you must not do this. But even if it doesn't eliminate it, it will then cause those emails. If it's a 3-paragraph one that says we're already doing it anyways, here are features that we, that will be helpful. And by the way, it'll save us money. The emails you get will probably be more limited and hopefully to, with a tone more of, I wish you didn't have to do this, and I just need to tell somebody that, as compared to, I intend to try to block.
All right. If anybody has any other suggestions, any other feedback, feel free to send it directly. If something occurs to you before the call is over, just jump back to the topic. I've got no problem with that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start moving forward. The next thing I wanted to mention is we've deployed an integration of Cloudflare Stream with the Medico recording player. So inside the Medico recording player, you can choose to stream in the embedded stream, take the embedded stream of the video either from Cloudflare Stream or from YouTube. At the moment, it defaults to YouTube. This is a step towards making sure that the content is accessible from as many places as it possibly can be, and giving us the ability to migrate to multiple embedding services as we need, so that we're not locked into any one place where we're keeping our video streaming stored. We are going to build an API into the data tracker that will let Medico tell us what the URL for the Cloudflare version of the stream is, and it will appear as an additional link on any given session. Where we have the YouTube link, we can have the Cloudflare Stream link right next to it. That API has not yet been built. I don't know if we will have it built before we get to IETF 124. It's a stretch. We're hoping we can, but as I said, there are some other things that we'll be talking about later that need to come in front of that. Anybody have any questions or comments about using Cloudflare Stream as part of these as part of this playback mechanism?
slightly tangential, but are we also keeping backups, on a large hard drive somewhere of all of the videos?
Yes.
Thank you.
So anytime a new thing is pushed to the streaming service, that we are pushing them into offline storage in Azure at the moment. So. All right. Our next topic, we can get a quick update from Sam and Dane about what's happening with our email systems.
Thanks, Robert. Kia ora koutou. My name is Sam. I'm from New Machine Futures. For those of you I haven't met, I work with Dane Foster on the email systems for IETF. A couple of brief updates to let you know what's going on. While we have had backups of all the mailman infrastructure before, we didn't have backups of the full Mail 2 system, which are now in place. And we're targeting, in the event of a catastrophic failure of that server, around about an 8-hour we did have a major system failure. It would be an outage of email for
Sam, your microphone has gone to noise at this point. Do you have something that's moving around it?
Or it might not be the microphone you think.
Sorry about that. Let me see if I can change my device to something different, and if that changes things, please stand by.
While checking the microphone, what is Mail 2?
It is the primary mail server that handles the both the ingress and egress mail traffic, and is where Mailman is hosted.
Okay.
How is my microphone now?
Same levels, less scratchy so far.
Great. Apologies.
Yeah, as soon as you started moving.
Unfortunate. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what is happening there. Is it consistently scratchy?
When you are
it's the, I think you've got the laptop microphone going instead of something else, and so as you're doing it, just moving your hand around, it's picking it up there.
Not touching, not doing anything, not
Scratching.
holding a. I just changed to my laptop microphone. I apologize.
I think we should. Yeah, I think we should move on. I think what Sam was going to tell us is basically written. Is if there's anything, Sam, that you have else, if you could type it into the chat, and if anybody has any questions, we can cover it.
Can I try one more time? Is this better?
That works much better.
I think I've just worked out what's happening. Even though in Meet Echo I have specified my laptop microphone, I've just noticed on my iPhone it is using my iPhone microphone. So now that I've taken it out of my pocket, thank you for the textile hint, that is better. Okay, apologies. So we've got snapshots in place. Separately to that, over the course of many years on that host, in response to spam activity, we have been blocking entire net blocks, dropping them completely at the firewall level. That has grown over time to be quite a significant amount of address space. Some very large net blocks have been added in response to abuse in the past, which may have led to participants being unable to email completely. We've started removing the biggest ones a few weeks ago. We're removing more and more now, and we think by the end of the week, we aim to remove all of those remaining net blocks, which, if you have been emailing to lists, will not affect you successfully. But some participants now may actually be able to email in where previously they were not. Leading on from that, we're putting in place more things to reduce the spam that we're receiving and have to deal with. One feature of Postfix we intend to employ is Post Screen, which will look at connections, for example, that do not follow the SMTP protocol, do not wait for a hello before spewing in their spam, it will just drop those sort of connections. We do not intend to implement that before IETF 124. We want to keep things stable for now, but after that meeting, we'll start incrementally implementing post screen to reduce the inbound spam we receive. Another change we're looking to make after the next meeting is moving to a new version of post confirm. That is the email challenge response system. When a new participant emails to a mailing list, it will respond and say, I'm not sure who you are, please reply to this message to confirm. And once they've done that once, it will continue on forever. We're moving to a new post confirm, which changes some of the architecture of how that's working. Currently, we receive the email at the protocol level, we queue the message, and then we post it, and then we push it through post confirm, which does the right things. The new system is a milter, so it happens at the protocol level. It allows us to drop specific addresses if we need, and it will do the checks. It will hold the message for a new participant, send them a new challenge. When they respond, the message is released and continues on as normal. Again, not implementing that before the next meeting, but shortly thereafter. That's when we intend to put that online. It gives us some extra architectural benefits as well. We're moving some of that checking functionality into an Azure cluster, and that way we can scale that if we need to later, as we start to separate out some of the legacy systems we have on Mail 2 to build a new architecture there. And the last thing I wanted to say is that both Dane and myself will be in Montreal for the next meeting. So if you have any concerns or questions on mail handling, we'd be delighted to talk to you during that meeting. Apologies for my microphone craziness. I'm pleased it's out of my pocket and working now.
Awesome.
Any questions, comments?
All right. Not hearing anything. Nick, can you tell us about IDNets 3?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, yeah, there's just one remaining issue, the IPR boilerplate for XML submission that needs to be addressed before we do a beta release. This should be done this week, and afterward we'll look at releasing a beta, but as always, keep testing your draft and report any issues that you find. It can be run in the browser at other tools or locally as a client. Yeah, that's it.
This is Paul. I had a question about the transition to IDNets 3. Might there be a time where in the normal draft submission, it gets run through IDNets 2 and 3, and both results are shown or diffs are shown or something like that? Is that in the plan, or is it going to be pretty much a we believe it's ready and a hard cutover?
No, it'll be an overlap.
Excellent. If you can send mail to everybody who's submitting or whatever, or just make a general announcement about that, I think it will cause people to look at that screen a little bit more than they normally do, and therefore you might get better reports.
So on that IDNets, we're going into beta now. When is the launch?
So we weren't able to have a strong overlap in time for this particular ID submission deadline. I would like to hold the hard cutover to IDNets 3 to be after we've gone through having both of them running during the ID submission deadline week. So I'm expecting that we will have IDNets 3 as an official thing very soon, but we wouldn't drop IDNets 2 and might not make IDNets 3 the thing that would block a submission until the draft submission deadline for 125.
Okay, understood. And if the community wanted to get smarter about the diff between what we get in 3 and 2, the best place to find that would be where?
Not sure I'm following the question. Ask it again.
So IDNets 3 is version 3. That's different than version 2. What is the goodness that comes in 3? Like, why do we have 3? What's going to be different with 3? Where does the community read more about that?
I think you're suggesting that we have some web text that just describes the differences as opposed to the community just experiencing the difference of the output.
Right. Yeah. I mean, part of it is, we're doing this migration of this tool. It would be great if we had some documentation. It could be in the GitHub repo or kind of someplace else that just says we have this new thing. We're putting a lot of effort into it. We're doing this big kind of migration. I appreciate the kind of the notion kind of on staging, but it would be also good if we could actually articulate the goodness that's coming or the difference that's coming. I'm not sure how to frame it. That
Sure.
I don't know if it's equal functionality, but like re-implementation, or whether there's a lot of new functionality and authors need to be aware of that. So it would be good to have that captured somewhere.
Right. New and exactly. We'll work on capturing it. One of the highlights in it will be that it can validate XML directly instead of rendering the text and then validating the text. And that lets us do a lot more high precision validation. But we can write that up if we don't have good artifacts that we can point to already. I'll work with Greg. We'll get something in place.
Great, thank you.
Anything else about IDNets 3? Anyone here not tried to use it yet? You can go grab anybody else's draft and just shove it through. And I would appreciate if everyone did, just to see if they have any, strong reactions one way or the other. So
BRPC will be adding a link to IDNets 3 in the intake form when we ask about, hey, are your references up to date? So we'll link both to the current and also say, hey, help the tools team out by checking out IDNets 3 and providing any feedback that you have to the tools team.
All right, I'll move on to the key data tracker updates that are in flight. Jennifer, would you take this section, please?
Sure. So I guess the first one is that for the last couple of meetings, or at least the last couple of months, we have had Cloudflare managed challenges in front of basically all meeting materials due to heavy automated traffic weighing things down, making data tracker respond poorly. Those managed challenges prevented the load from bringing it down, but have caused a number of users in various places inconveniences, and we're planning to remove those managed challenges for the next meeting to hopefully especially help remote attendees get to the materials without problems. We're in the process right now of reworking the way we serve the meeting materials to pull them from R2 at the edge, which should reduce the load on the data tracker considerably, and is also exciting because it will be the first time we've taken this blob infrastructure that we've been working on for the last year or so and taking it out of just a write-only mode that we've been doing as an exploration, but actually using those artifacts to to serve data. So there are some wrinkles right now because we don't yet have a complete data. We don't have all of our artifacts backfilled into the blob system yet. So there's still a number that are on the file system only. So there are some changes we're making to make that work, probably as a temporary measure, before we get to the full blob served world. Then another change coming before 124 is moving the way that we represent authors of RFCs in the data tracker. What's been happening historically is the data tracker has been using data structures that were set up for internet drafts as a way to represent authors that are tied in with data tracker person records in ways that don't line up, especially for older historical RFCs. It hasn't allowed us to keep the records in sync. So if you want to see the lists of authors for RFCs in data tracker, they don't always line up with what is actually published on the RFC itself. In preparation for RED, where we will be serving data, sourcing the data through the data tracker, we're reconciling that and replacing the modeling in a way that lets us do that accurately. So tied in with the plan to have a RED demo at 124, we're going to at least have the adjustments to the modeling in place, and we'll have as much as we can get before then synchronized, but probably won't have the full data set going back for all of the RFCs. That will be a work in progress to fill it in, and then it will take a while to vet the data and find any inconsistencies and clean those up.
And will this be an automated system, the inconsistency check, or does it require some job by yourself or secretariat or whoever?
So the plan will be certainly for new drafts as we're populating them. It will be automated and hopefully synchronized. But I think there will have to be some manual checking, and I'm not sure.
Our initial deployment of this is going to be into the staging data tracker that the staging RED is feeding off of for the demo. Mm-hmm. And that data will be updated daily. It will be recalculated daily, okay. Right, and updated. So there'll be a long period of vetting, mostly through looking at what RED is outputting to see if the reconciliation is improving things. When we get to the point where we move purple into production and RED into production, this data will be moved into the data tracker production at that time if it hasn't been moved to the production data tracker before. And yes, we are doing as much automated reconciliation as we can in the process of creating the purple database and recreating it as we're going forward. But there's still quite a lot of this that's going to come down to human curation. We've done a lot of this already. There's going to be a lot still to be done, but we're going to be providing a environment where it will be far easier to accept and take action on somebody saying, oh, hey, this person over here, this data tracker person over here doesn't have this RFC associated with them, and it really should be. All right. So that becomes, if any fix up like that as it's discovered, just becomes a normal maintenance, low effort activity.
Yeah, because with UTF-8 characters, right? So it's not always easy, and people are changing names or whatever. That's challenging.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, so come by to the desk during the RED demo and let me describe some of the real challenges with coming out of the disparate databases and getting them to agree on what they're talking about.
I can imagine. Thank you.
Will this be tied into the profiles as well?
Yes.
Okay. just because I am a person who has had 3 major email addresses, and people wonder when they, look at the profile and such like that. I'm happy to help be a guinea pig for you. I'll come by the desk.
Jennifer, go ahead and pick it back up.
Okay. Actually, do you want to talk more about the next 2 here? These are the work you've been tracking on.
Sure. So the workflows for issuing working group last calls and working group calls for adoption are being touched again at the ISG's request. The ISG wanted email to be sent when the document entered these states. A lot of chairs were surprised that these emails were appearing out of the data tracker as a side effect of setting the states, and they would have liked to have had the ability to modify the email or customize it if they needed to. I've been doing some work to make that possible. For the working group call for adoption in particular, there were already some seriously jarring spots in the workflow that I have been attempting to smooth out, trading off the guiding a chair into doing the right thing with the, while avoiding either forcing them into doing something that is not appropriate or preventing them from doing something that is appropriate. I had an early version of the changes that allow previewing and editing the working group last call deployed at a feature branch on one of the development servers. There's an update to that coming today or tomorrow that will further change the workflows for how you get to these things that separate do these big major things like issue a last call email or ask the ISG to publish something from the simpler, I just want to change the working group state to foo. And will include the preview of the call for adoption email as well. So those will go through another round of review with the working group chairs on the development site before they come into production. So I don't think they're likely to come into production with the next release, but hopefully we can bring them in at the release after that. The other thing that I've been working on is collapsing the 2-view ISG balloting process where the ISG would take a ballot position and then preview the email that would go out about the ballot position that they just took. Several people have been bitten by not hitting send on that second view, and it left the data tracker in a state where the data tracker claimed email had been sent, but email had not actually been sent. Combining these views ensures that both taking the position and sending the email are atomic actions. The view that has been in preview for a little over a week now has only received positive feedback from the ISG, so I plan to merge that later today and have it be part of the next release. Anyone have any comments on either of those 2 chunks of work?
Robert, before we move on to the FYIs, can we talk about the security review?
All right. Do you want me to just jump in, or did you have something?
Yes, please. Yep, just note. Yeah, please.
All right. Somebody can sketch what I'm saying into the notes. The security firm that we chose for the 2025 reviews have completed the first two that we asked them to do, which was the data tracker and our new cloud infrastructure. We've mitigated most of the concerns that they brought up in those reviews. There's a review team consisting of the IETF chair, the security ADs, the liaisons from the ISG to the tools team, and a couple of hard-hitting security people from the community, Rich and Russ, who are both on this call, that have been given access to those reviews and to our response plan for them. They've had that for only a few days, on the order of a week at this point. So it's not quite a week. We're still gathering feedback from their reviews of these reviews and our response. And that is our plan, that review team, for achieving transparency with the community for these reviews while balancing responsible operations of the affected systems. At a very, very high level, the kinds of things that the reviews pointed out to us are that we have many applications that we allow to run and take action on arbitrary user input, large amounts of arbitrary user input, notably internet drafts going into things like XML to RFC, where surprising things can happen because of the tooling that's been added to XML to RFC to make the program more convenient, fetching things like references and whatnot. So you'll see that there have been updates to XML to RFC to guard against some things, but there's going to be ongoing activities for all of these applications for anything that we put at Author Tools, for example, where we talk about just how much do we let these things reach out and touch in the process of doing their job. You know, how much do we let these things run on compute since they're running over arbitrary input? So there were a small handful of other more mundane, hey, here's a nit in what you've done in your deployment that you might consider doing differently, that weren't major things that we have that we were able to quickly address, that they've already been addressed. For those of you
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was to say thanks. It'd be good to hear from one of the community members who has reviewed the security review, that they're comfortable with things, just because we don't share this more broadly, and it's just good to have a bit of transparency around that. So if anyone who has had a look, happy to say something.
This is Russ. It's on my calendar for tomorrow to do the review.
This is Rich. I read the infrastructure one, which was not in my wheelhouse particularly, and I read the summary of the data tracker review. You know, they seem good, solid reports. You guys should be pleased that they only found one or two serious issues, that all of which seems like they can be mitigated straightforward. So, yeah.
And on my side, I just reviewed the data tracker one, and had no time to look about the mitigation though. But like you said, Rich, nothing that dramatic. So I would say well done. It needs to be polished, of course, right? And Robert, your summary about what I read is pretty correct.
Thank you. We're at 10 minutes till the end of the hour. We've been walking through the FYI section in the past. I think we should go relatively quickly, ask questions for where people want focus, or if someone has an item that they particularly want to call out. Let's walk through those that way this time. Any further questions or comments about Data Tracker, author tools, XML to RFC?
I do want to comment about XML to RFC, the update to embed fonts. So people will see a difference in font weight. What had occurred was people noticed in Chrome in particular that bold font was no longer bold. So I had opened an issue with Chromium. They said, yeah, there's an issue here, but we should do some work to improve our fonts ourselves. So we are now self-hosting those fonts, and you will see that documents will look a bit different. It will be bold now.
So this is going to affect some set of RFCs being published in the future. There aren't any RFCs published yet, or have we published an RFC that is self-hosted?
I'd have
self-hosted fonts.
Right. So we installed that last week.
I think maybe there has been one.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So.
But my point is that at the moment this is affecting new RFCs. We have not done anything with the RFCs that are already published that use Google hosted fonts. Discussions are continuing about what we would do with those to avoid the issues with using the fonts hosted at Google.
I added a link to a RFC that's been published with the XML to RFC update.
All right, moving forward, libxml, wwsv check, IDNets, mail archive. There is something in mail archive we could spend a few minutes on. Is Ryan on the call? I don't think I see him. Yeah.
I believe Ryan is currently in transit, so not on a call.
All right. I'll summarize it. There's been some effort that's gone into looking at replacing mail archive's use of Elasticsearch with TypeSense. We're using TypeSense heavily in the rest of the infrastructure at this point, and we're hoping that we can just unify all of the applications on using it, as we are hoping to have the union of applications have search across the unions of the data stored in the different applications available. There are some challenges that have been identified. So far, it looks like it's going to be possible to make that transition. Nick and Ryan in particular are busy poking at what would have to happen to make this transition. At the moment, looks like it might be a matter of adding a quick parser to the language that we are already providing for doing search inside Mail Archive to adapt it to the TypeSense APIs, but not a huge amount of effort more than that. Nick, did I characterize that correctly? All right. Anybody that's on the team that is working on purple and red, people know that we've got the red demo coming up. There's we're hoping to have a blog post out about red very soon. Anybody that's been working on these two applications, if there is something in particular that has happened in the last month that you'd like to call out.
Yeah, I could mention for Purple, so we focused a lot about features regarding assignments. So in the last releases, now we added functionality that you can assign drafts to specific editors in a specific role. You can unassign, you can withdraw assignments. So that was the main focus, and also what we call blocked assignments. So when a draft is blocked due to specific conditions, like a hold on a draft, then we now flag this and show it to the editor. And yeah, that was one of the main features that we built in the last month.
It's a good pre-step towards making it more obvious in the public-facing view of the queue when their RPC just can't do anything about it right now. So. All right. Last thing we've got up here is DraftForge, if Nick has anything he wants to add. Otherwise, we're within 4 minutes of the close of the meeting. Any other business?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise one other bit of business. It's a perennial topic of mine. We talked about at the last tools meeting that we need a replacement for the roadmap. So the ability to talk about all our different products and what's on deck now, when it's coming and what's coming in the future, and kind of some way to reflect backlog management and scheduling. So I just wanted to check in on where we were with that.
I do not have a concrete proposal yet. So still working on how we can do something that is better than what we had been doing.
So I'll say for the record, I found nothing wrong with what we were doing before. We just needed a better segmentation of the products we're managing and more details on what is getting put in each one of those sprints, or whatever is the unit of what is the software process we are running here.
Warren, again,
So,
we're not using.
We have nothing now. We at least had something before. So I would at least err, if possible, on the side of at least getting us back to the visibility we had before. Because I observe on many of these projects, I'm struggling in a self-serve fashion, not that the answers aren't available, to understand what we're doing, what's the scope of that work, and when it's going to arrive. And, at any given point in time, we talk about some subset of it. It would be nice to be able to see the totality of it and figure out, what's coming in the next release relative to that. It's easier to provide feedback.
And yeah, I guess related to something that we used to have that we don't anymore, do we have any idea when the stats pages will come back? Because I know a lot of people look at them, and I keep trying to find our stats on participation, and scraping images in the plenary slides is not helpful.
So this is one of the things that I think needs to happen when we have the integration with Purple finished, so that our RSC author stats can actually be correct. And I think it is a big enough project that it's likely to be one that we look for an external contractor to help with. So my completely off the cuff guess is that this is activity that would start in the March-April timeframe and hopefully land in the summer.
Okay. Seeing as the Secretariat figures these numbers out and puts them in the plenary slides, could we, as a temporary thing, just put those numbers on a page so people can see them? I realize the other numbers weren't perfect, but at least they gave some good indication of region.
So if you're talking about the attendance regions.
Yep, that was one of the big things on that page, was it would show a graph over time of where people were participating from, and how many people we had from different regions, and how many people were at each meeting. And that was a useful thing for sort of showing that the IETF is actually a global org and not just US or just.
And presumably, Warren, you'd be happy if that went on the wiki.
Somewhere where people can find it. And like, I know that there are a bunch of links to this page, and I know a bunch of people have been going along and being like, hey, I know that that it's not only US people who show up at this thing. Where are the stats? And I go and like look through the plenary slides and are like, oh, here's like a pie chart. And if I turn it sideways and overlay it on that one, I have some numbers.
Okay. So that's something we can do as a non-technology project in that sense. And we can do that as a data project.
Thank you. That would be really helpful.
Could I just also ask, would you be happy with on an annual basis? Because I think that's something that we currently do work on, but we could build off of that. Annual would help.
I mean, annual would do. I mean, most of the stuff is like, I probably even have the data in a Google sheet somewhere because I used to export it and stick it in something. Annual would be better than nothing, but I figure like maybe when we update the slides for the plenary, somebody could also just stick it on there, just like a line being like North America, Asia, Europe, or something.
So Warren, annual would actually be better than quarterly because attendance change, regional attendance changes significantly.
Yeah, I mean, what we used to have is a graph showing that. I can't share it now, but we used to have a graph that would actually show that per whatever. So it would have a couple of years with like bar graph showing each one. But anyway.
So short answer, yes, we will do something. So we're a minute over time. Anyone have anything else? All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time, and we will see you at 124.
Thank you, and thank you for running this.